if they were involved in any particular way. Dave Amerman, Goldin's head of revenue and sports consignment, joins us. Paul Catalina, Craig, and David Smoke on 365 Sports. Dave, thank you very much. We really do appreciate your time, and it's always unique to see what something might be of value. You have a list, you kind of know yourself. What would you have thought might be the most valuable part of that game from last night as a collectible?
Well, you've obviously got Patrick Mahomes, the, soon to be potentially on his way to being one of the all-time, well, he is already one of the all-time greats, but potentially being one of the greatest ever. His jersey, of course, right? Mm-hmm. The jersey that he wore MVP, winning his third Super Bowl. We've put a price on that, approximately $1.5 million, and that's based off of Joe Montana's Super Bowl MVP jersey we sold earlier this year, a little north of $1 million. So, they're fetching quite a premium these days.
Dave, what kind of weird random things will be valuable from last night's game?
Well, depends on who's calling them weird and random because, right, in the sports memorabilia business, everything's a little different, right?
Yeah.
The balls, obviously the balls used for touchdown passes, for scoring. Balls from the last couple of Super Bowls have gone for 30 to 40 grand, just regular used balls, not even from specific plays. So obviously we'll have game-winning touchdown balls, probably 100 grand, for something like that. Balls from the game, probably 30 to 40, and then obviously different scoring games. Obviously everyone knows Taylor Swift's been involved. We've actually done some things with the Kelceys, and they have some interesting outfits, to say the least, right? The walkout outfit, right, could be something. Maybe perhaps a celebration outfit worn for the victory parade. Those could be some really obscure items that we, eventually see out. But obviously you want the star players' uniforms, really, and their helmets. The helmets are also really desirable. We pinned the Mahomes game, his helmet around 500,000. And who knows, could be more. And obviously Kelce's jersey from that game as well. If it's his final game, probably a nice premium, maybe 500 grand. But I would imagine 200K plus for his jersey last night as well. So millions and millions of dollars worth of memorabilia, to be had from the game last night. That's for sure.
Dave, can you take us through just the gathering of collectibles and ensuring that, hey, this is Patrick's jersey from last night or Travis Kelce's football from this pass, catch, touchdown, what have you? Just all in general, McCole Hardman, I should say, with a touchdown. How does all that kind of work, especially in the feverish finish of a Super Bowl like that and all the celebrating afterwards?
Yeah, it's very definitive now. The technology used, the photo matching used. I've sold collections of players who thought they had their Super Bowl jerseys, and then all of a sudden somebody else does, right? Maybe someone who had access to a locker room or something. We've had guys reach out to us and say they've had items that were like, let me call the athlete. And the athlete's like, nope, I've got it on my wall. So really the photo matching. And as you know, athletes over time, they forget things, right? Oh, that was the Super Bowl one. Oh, maybe this was. So photo matching is very important. Even if something's coming directly from the source, even if it's coming from the team or the locker room or the equipment manager, you have to be able to match it with a photograph. And the photo matching is really what causes these 6 and 7 figure valuations that we see, because, it's only worth what someone's willing to pay as long as the credibility and the probability of use. So when you can match it to a photograph from a specific player or moment, and nowadays guys are wearing more than one jersey. I wouldn't be surprised if, there was multiples of jerseys worn, perhaps in half last night and things like that. So you really need to, know exactly when the items were used. So the photo matching technology, basically what you're doing is you're looking at the hole patterns on the uniforms and you're matching it to the letters. You're looking for any repairs, any loose threads, any dirt or grass markings or, anything like that. And some of those uniforms were certainly easier matches than others. But really you're looking, everything's unique. Those whole patterns, the patterns in the jerseys with the numbers, they're very unique. Even the stitching pattern around the numbers. So if you can match all that up with nothing that doesn't match, then you've got a very likely match, and that's what adds to the value. So these players are probably not selling these jerseys. They've wisened up as well. They're not just leaving them in the locker for anyone to take. I'm sure they're holding them very tightly to them, and I'm sure they're not wanting to let them go anytime soon. I don't think really any of the players here, are looking to sell anything, but perhaps down the line, they'll eventually come to the market. And if they come to the market any sooner, I'd, really want to make sure, I'd advise anyone buying them to just make sure you know your source and make sure they're actually available for sale. The athlete's not going to call you, later down the road and say, hey, where'd you get that?
So, wristbands, gloves, things that players have on them. Is there a value to that? Like you said, there's no value unless somebody thinks it's valuable, but are those things pretty minimal, even if it's Jason Kelce or Patrick Mahomes with a wristband or something like gloves?
There's definitely different value levels, right? You're not going to get a premium on a glove as you will on a jersey. But for example, we sold one of Cooper Kupp's gloves, not even Super Bowl related, a few years ago. We have partnership with the Rams, and we've got $15,000. Jerry Rice gloves, another example where you see his game used gloves going for $5,000, $10,000 plus. So the gloves are definitely an interesting item, and they're very desirable. The cleats. We've actually got a pair of Brock Purdy cleats that he wore this year in our auction already over $3,000. I would imagine the cleats he wore last night are going to be, 10x that, and definitely the Mahomes. We have a pair of Mahomes cleats in auction right now that's already around $10,000, and it just opened. So, a lot of that. Believe it or not, the pylons. The pylons are collectible. I don't know what exactly they can do with them, but you can create collages. I used to work for a company, and we used to take these items and the turf and everything, and we'd make plaques, and we'd incorporate a piece of these. Mm-hmm. And now, I don't know if you've noticed, but what they've been doing with the game-used balls is they've actually been taking the balls, cutting them, and putting them in the championship rings. They've had them in the Rams rings. So now inside the ring, you get a piece of a ball used in the game. So they're really getting creative.
Dave, let's just say, and this is out there, but there's somebody that's going to come, some wingnut that's going to say, look, Taylor Swift chugged a beer with Blake Lively last night, and I have those cups. What are they worth to you?
Well, it's all about the memory in the moment, right? So I think that's an item that in the short term certainly would have a nice return. And who knows, right? Maybe even for the long term with Taylor, because she's quite a popular person. Some of her clothing has sold for $5,000 plus, just clothing that was worn. So I would imagine those cups, if I had to throw a value out there, I would say several $1,000s. And who knows, if you get it soon enough to market, I could see two people fighting it upwards over $10,000.
Mm-hmm. You got to compare the lipstick on the cup. In fact, it's to make sure it's the right one. Craig?
Bright red. There's your first indicator. But how much has Travis Kelce merchandise gone up since, I guess, that's become more prominent, his relationship? I mean, have you seen anything noticeable as far as Travis Kelce products and their pricing post Taylor Swift dating and all that?
Undoubtedly. I mean, first of all, he's just become, a hotter commodity as it is, actually. We work with them, and we actually were planning on doing some things, and then when this relationship came out, his schedule got booked up very quickly, unfortunately for us. His jerseys, for example, we sold a regular season jersey this year for $37,000 once all the hype came about. His regular season jerseys were going for under $10,000 prior to that sale. Now they're going for, 15 to 20 plus per, and we obviously set the record at 36,000. We sold another one for just under 20,000. His rookie cards, another 5-10x multiplier, on that as well. So it's, as he becomes more and more popular, his value goes up. Collectibles isn't always about how good you are. It's a popularity contest too. I study these players, and you're like, this guy's technically better than that guy. Doesn't matter as long as the people are popular. That's why their value is going to increase, because you need, the certain number of people bidding. But I can't tell you how many different people I saw on social media last night who basically said, I never watch football, but Taylor wins, and Taylor this, Taylor that. Yeah. So, a lot of new folks to the hobby. And she's worldwide, just one of the biggest, stars out there. He's absolutely seen an increase in value. I mean, more than 2 to 3 times, as a result, which is very rare, when an athlete is dating someone. Typically, the athlete usually kind of overshadows, at least in some cases. I think of like Alex Rodriguez, for example, and his celebrity dating, But in this case, Kelce's value certainly shot up.
Dave Amerman, again, Goldin's head of revenue and sports consignment. So McCole Hardman catches the game-winning touchdown. We discussed the football, maybe $100,000. If Kelce had caught it, or Mahomes had kept it and scored, would that value be more if it's a bigger name, or is it just the moment whoever catches or runs and scores the game-winning touchdown?
It's absolutely will vary also by player. Definitely Mahomes touchdown premium, Kelsey premium. There was a lot of players, you'd see a premium. Every year we look at the final out of the World Series. That's different because it's usually not a walk-off hit, right? It's usually an out, so it doesn't really matter who made the out as much as in this case where it's a game-winning play and a touchdown. So there will be an increase in value. Obviously, your Mahomes collectors are going to pay a premium, if it was a Mahomes ball. For example, Super Bowl, Tom Brady touchdown pass balls, 6 figures plus, balls used in the game, 30, 40 grand. So clearly, a different factor there. They also number the balls now. So going back to the photo matching, now you can actually match the number on the ball because they're all individual numbered, things like that. So you can really pinpoint and make sure, because as you know, the chaos at the end of the game, where does that ball go? Who's got it? Tucked away and whatnot. We may never see the ball come out, but I do know a few cases where guys caught iconic Brady touchdowns in Super Bowls, and they actually held them and have them. One of them was even a game ball from a different player, and they brought it out to market and went for a big premium because it was thrown by a Hall of Fame caliber guy.
Dave, you mentioned Mahomes collectors. I was just curious of what that market looks like. At this point already, he's only 28 years old, but obviously, the resume speaks for itself. So what is the marketplace like for a Patrick Mahomes? How fast does it, or has it grown? And do you have anything to compare it to, just at the trajectory that it's on right now?
It's a great question. Obviously, we saw him come out early in his career and, be on pace for some regular season touchdown records. Obviously, he's won some Super Bowls already. So he's continued to climb. Collecting and memorabilia selling is it's like the market, right? So at this moment, he's certainly hot, but it's all a matter of keeping that up and continuing to ascend. We saw with LeBron James, everyone wanted to wait until he passed the all-time career scoring record to sell their items, but they were worth more the year before. Just for whatever the reason, the market was better during the pandemic when he won the championship in 2020. So you don't always have to wait for them to break the milestone to get there. And I think if we look at Mahomes now, someone in a different sport who I think we can compare him to, except maybe championships aside, I look at like a Mike Trout, 3 MVPs early on, really just the top tier of his game, or at least as of a few years ago, I'm saying. And it just, his values were through the roof. So often we see a peak of a player almost midway through their career. Brady was an exception because he kept doing it and kept doing it, and his value did keep increasing over and over again and again and again. Now, even just for a Tom Brady autograph, you go to a signing, you're paying thousands of dollars just for Tom to sign something, and which is really kind of unheard of outside of like Michael Jordan and a few other guys. So I think Patrick Mahomes is definitely on that, he's on that trajectory, but he still has to come out and perform next year. Halfway through the year this year, his values were down a little bit. He looked like they weren't going to make it too far, and quickly the attentions were starting to focus on Brock Purdy's and Lamar Jackson's, and now all of a sudden he's won it, and it's really solidified his place in history here, and, we anticipate we're going to see a lot more. So, yeah, he's definitely hot. We've seen ups and downs over the years in his values due to a lot of different factors. But, now is definitely, a time to see some heights in value. Of course, we haven't seen too many sales since the game ended yesterday, but we'll continue to keep our eyes open. And we've got a bunch of items that just came in again today, even and last night, of Mahomes and other players on the Chiefs that are going to come up to auction soon. So I think over the next few weeks, really everyone should keep an eye out and just kind of see where those values go. But I'd like to think that Mahomes' value, he was a few years ago, he was one of the rare players that got an increase in value in the off season going into the next year. So players and investors have always been hot on him. So we might see a continued increase over the next few months, even though he's hot right now. What he's done, people will start thinking about, and they might continue. If you're going to buy any quarterback in the NFL, he would certainly be the guy.
Dave, if you don't mind, one more question, and thanks for your time and the knowledge and insight of all this. How did you get involved with this? Was this something as simple as you collecting baseball cards when you were a kid and you kind of get interested? How did you get involved in this business?
I think you hit the nail on the head. It started as baseball cards as a child, and I have an older brother who he has a good collection. I had to have a better collection, so we just kind of bought cards. I got to be honest, I didn't even watch the games as much. I couldn't tell you what's going on, but I knew the players on the cards. So it started for me, collectibles first, And then that translated into, oh, I pulled the card of this guy. Let me go root for him now. Let me go watch. So when I every year before the season starts, I pick up a couple players, and now you've invested in all the games. It's very similar to sports betting, online now, where guys will put money on a player to win MVP or to win the Super Bowl. So I think right now you're going to certainly have that emotion, and people, they just want somebody to root for. So some guys are in it just for collecting. Some guys are in it to make money. Others are in it, for the short term to see who they can invest in and who's going to come out and play well, and then they're going to sell quickly. But for me, lifelong collecting led me here, and I never thought I'd be selling memorabilia at my age and still in the biz. But it's a great business, and it's continuing to grow. And I used to work in finance, and I sell sports memorabilia now, and I got to be honest, I never would have thought the sports memorabilia would eventually potentially outweigh my career in finance.
Thank you very much, Dave. We appreciate what you're doing at Goldin's, also for your time today. Dave Amerman, head of revenue and sports consignment. Thanks to Olivia for setting up the interview with us as well on that and what Goldin's is. And